Greetings from Costa Rica. We're having something of a rainy Sunday. It has rained all day today. It rained all day yesterday. I suspect it's going to rain all day tomorrow. We're towards the very end of our rainy season here. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write for Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering. I did that for almost 10 years, like 9 3/4 years. It involved the quiverful evangelical Christianity. Don't bully anybody I talk about on here at all, please. Shoot, don't even be rude to each other in the comments. If you could hit like, subscribe, all those YouTubey things, that would be great, but I don't want to talk about that. Hey, I'm doing better every day, Carolyn. Today was kind of a little bit of a setback because it's been so rainy for so many days. So I am fighting against mold and I'm kind of reacting to it today as a result. It is what it is. And yesterday, okay, my connection is unstable. Okay, so if you can't hear me or see me, let me know in the comments. I knew this was going to be a gamble to try this today, but I figured what the heck, I was going to try it anyway. We've had some interesting electricity issues today. Like I said, Costa Rica is a second world country trying to become a first world country that sometimes has third world problems. I want to talk a little bit about addiction today. Why? Because so many people seem to struggle with this. I can't say that I've ever been addicted to anything. Oh, Billy and I both had it 2 years ago. It takes a long time to get over with. I know it does. And I know it's two steps forward, one step back with this. And it has really it's been quite the issue because now we're regaining smell and taste. And to me, everything tastes weird. And everybody's telling me that's pretty common. So I'm not too upset about that. It just is what it is. The hardest thing for me is the fatigue, and I still have that. So that's why I'm coming on so late. It's been a lazy day because it's raining here. Even though I've been thinking about the whole, subject of addiction ever since Aaron Carter was announced as dead yesterday. I didn't even really know for sure who Aaron Carter was before this happened yesterday. I mean, I didn't. I didn't follow his career. I knew his brother had been in the Backstreet Boys, and then he'd had a singing career. But anything beyond that, I didn't know. A couple of years ago, when I started hanging around on Twitter for the first time, I started seeing video and pictures of Aaron Carter. And they weren't very flattering, is all I'm going to say. It was pretty obvious that might be mental health issues driving the boat, and that he was struggling with substance abuse. Like I said before, I've never been addicted to any substance that I couldn't actually get off. I was on Oxycontin for about 9 months because I'd messed up my hand, my elbow, and my shoulder. And Blue Cross, in their infinite wisdom, made me go through 2 trials of failed physical therapy before they paid for the surgery. So I was flying high on this stuff, and I hated it. I hated every second of it. I'm not one of those people that would ever get addicted to heroin as a result. Couldn't wait to get off because it made me feel completely emotionless. And I know for some people that's a preferred state, but that is not for me. So I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day about this because she's like me. She doesn't like them. She takes them when she has to, but most of the time she makes every effort not to take them. So yesterday they said that Aaron Carter drowned in a bathtub. And I'm thinking when they do the autopsy, they're going to find so much, not just drug abuse, but they're going to find the damage from the drug abuse. Because that's the other sad fact that I've learned through the years is my friends who were extreme, that were using frequently all kinds of stuff, that when they got to the middle age part of their lives, they all keeled over and died of damage inflicted on their body back when they were still addicted. I worked in the field for 9 years. The stories I could tell, Carol, I could just imagine I can just imagine what the stories are like. I've seen people who are highly addicted. They used to come in the clinic that I worked at. This was before it became well known that uh, anything in those oxycodone type drugs caused addiction. That was well before all of this. And I used to call it the dog ate my Oxycontin because I'd heard every excuse in the book. They would route calls to me about that, asking for refills, early refills on things. And I would talk to the person and then I would go talk to the doctor. And that was how they had it going for a long time at the clinic because I was one of the people in charge of the office there. And it never failed to amuse me some of the different excuses I heard for people asking for refills on benzos early, refills on opioid pain medication, all sorts of things that people would want, and they would come up with crazy stories. So my own experiences and my friend, we've been talking about this, and I'm convinced that those people that have tendency to become physically addicted to drugs, that there's some big difference in the brain chemistry between myself and them because, like I said, I couldn't wait to get off. I did not like feeling that way. But then you have people like Aaron Carter and many others that you see continue to use. You know that there's something different going on in here. I really think when this all shakes out and they find the answer for addiction, it's going to be it's going to be chemical in the brain for you to be more apt to fall into addiction or not. The sad thing is I have had a number of family members who are addicted to various substances, everything from alcohol on up to heroin. And one of the things that people don't talk about too much is what it does to the family. Now, I've noticed some interesting conversations being held after his death about his fans enabling him, how they sent him money to be able to go buy drugs all the time. And all I can say is shame on you if you were doing that, because that's the last thing that he needed to do. He needed to be able to hit bottom and then come back up again. And nobody can make an addict change until they're ready to change. What we can do as family members of those who suffer from addiction, the best thing we can do is just tell them, hey, I love you, but I can't be part of this. So when they lie to you trying to get money, you have to say, no, I'm not giving you money because I believe you will use it merely to buy drugs. Let me buy you food. Let me pay your rent, that sort of thing if you want to help out. But I've seen so many times, I could mention family members. One in particular I'm thinking of, her child has been in and out of rehab almost as many times as he is years old. He's been in something like 40 times and nothing ever sticks. Right now, he happens to be in a specific rehab for veterans because he is a veteran of the Navy. And he's living in this sober living village. So it's not even a home, it's a sober living village where everybody there has been at one time or another a user of something. And they're all living there together to stay away from the triggers that cause them to use. And I think they said you can stay there anywhere from like a year, like 5 or 6 years or longer, as you feel like you need it. And I think that kind of needs to happen for some people. Sober living houses are awesome, but when you leave the sober living house, you have to go out into this world. And for some people, that's not going to be the answer. They're going to need more support and longer time than that. And in the meantime, the families are just getting crushed under the wheel of this thing, this awful thing that has taken over their family member. I don't have all the answers for this, but I've seen all sides of it. I've seen my aunt run around and try to make excuses. I've seen her enable. I've seen her do all sorts of things, but it took her son deciding for himself that he was done with it, to go into rehab, then go into the sober living village. It's the only thing that's worked with him. But again, he had to make that decision. As much as my aunt loves him and wanted him to decide to be sober, there's not a lot you can do to make that happen when you have addicted family members. Even interventions only go so far. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is just leave the person alone and let them reach that spot instead of having them stealing from you, and even worse. I know it sounds like I have no compassion, but I absolutely do have some compassion. I have compassion for family members that are going through this and for those that are addicted. I specifically have a very close family member that struggles with alcohol, that I have many times had to say, when they've called me up and been ranting and raving about something, I've had to say, that's not what's true. That's not true at all. What's true is XYZ instead. You have to be kind, you have to be gentle, but you don't have to take any BS. It's awful for family members, awful. Absolutely, Christoph fan, it is awful. And it's really hard to walk away from those relationships, those parent-child relationships, or those when you're the child and the other person is parent, brothers, sisters. It's just really hard to say no to a family member when they're going through these things. I look at my aunt and I see how much time she spent. There's times when she would chase her son from bar room to bar room to bar room and drive him around and try to control his drinking. And it just never worked. You can't fix them. They have to want it, and then you can support them. Breaks my heart for anyone going through it. Christoph fan, same, same. That's why I felt like I needed to come on and say something about this. I know that, like I said, there's kind of a battle going with the Aaron Carter fans. The ones that enabled him are being beat up on by the ones that thought they were enabling him, which is, it's really awful. I cannot imagine having those kind of mental issues and addictions in the public eye. I just cannot for the life of me imagine that. I cannot imagine being his parent, knowing that every day you're going to turn on your Twitter and there he's going to be in all his glory, 6 feet tall and 115 pounds, and you know you can't fix them. You know there's nothing you can do. So my prayer list gets longer all the time, and I think I'm going to have to add the Carter family, because this is going to be a really hard time to walk through. Even though they haven't said drugs are involved with Aaron Carter, I think that they almost have to be. My brother died from years of drug abuse, and my teenage son has a problem. Detach with love. Barbara, that's all we can do is detach with love. Like I said, I have a very close family member that still struggles with alcohol that I have to be somewhat detached with, because if I'm not, I can get pulled into the crazy, or I can have my heart broken 50 times a day. He had lost his sister a few years ago too. Oh, yeah, I knew that he had. I'd read that because I went to look him up after he died and everybody was talking about him. It's like, yeah, I sort of remember he was a teen idol. But I've been seeing him plastered all over social media for the last couple of years, and just looked at a picture and was like, that is just tragic, that he needs rehab badly, very badly. I understand the family got him to go a number of times and it just never stuck. And that's typical but tragic at the same time. And like I said, it's doubly tragic when you have the ones that actually manage to make it to the other side And then when they hit middle age, they die because something is haywire in their body from the damage wreaked during the drug addiction years. In the US, I attend Narcanon for support. Barbara, I've gone to a number of Al Anon support group things to see what it was like and to see if others were struggling with some of the same things that I was as the child of someone who had alcohol problems. It can be good. And I would recommend that too. Find a support group, take part in it. Know you're not alone as a family member of an addicted person. Know you're not responsible for their behavior. Their behavior is on them, it's not on you. Barbara Prayers, I've been there and fully understand. Yep. And when you have to detach, it's something rather painful to do. I just pray today for his brother and any other surviving family members, his mother, father. I'm not sure if he has parents still alive, but it's just such a hard thing for the entire family. Hey, Megan. Hey, Megan. It's just incredibly hard for the entire family. And to end so tragically, I don't doubt that he was trying to get off benzos and that something happened. There's just not any good way that I can see to get off benzos except with medical help, like in a facility. Because my understanding is that's one of the hardest ones in this world to get off of. And I can just imagine, because the only time I've ever had trouble getting off a drug was when I had to get off Lexapro after 9 years. I didn't cause it. I can't control it. I can't fix it. The 3 C's. That's exactly right. I had a hell of a time for about 6 months. I got off, but it wasn't easy. And I started thinking about if you were someone who was hooked on some drug and you really struggled, it might be difficult to do that. Not everybody's as mean as I am. And I can be pretty damn mean when I decide to do something. It's like, I'm getting off this. I don't care if it gives me shakes. I don't care if I start throwing up. I don't care. I'm doing this thing. And that goes back to the whole thing I was saying, that I think that people who struggle with addiction, there's something different in the wiring of their brain, the chemistry of their brain. There's got to be some difference that makes a difference between those of us that don't do it and those that get addicted. And it should be no shame. But I saw also that some are alleging that the people that were surrounding I saw also that some are alleging that the people that were surrounding him trying to use codeine cough syrup to get him off of whatever he was taking. I don't know. I just know that the toxicology report is going to be the important one. That's going to show what happened. I think depression is the factor and they use it to escape. Christoph, and that is the only way I can see deliberately taking a drug that makes you completely numb. I can see being so depressed that that feeling hurts too much and you have to turn it off in order to be able to function, well, be functional in this world, is to turn that off. Vilification. Aaron Carter and his mother were on family boot camp a few years ago. They basically took all of his money. He told them how he was sick as a child. He cried, but his parents wouldn't help him. That is just tragic. It's as tragic as what I'm hearing coming out of the Britney Spears camp, that her sister begged her for help because she was being bullied on the set of her television show. What was that? Chloe 101. I think that was the name of the show she was on. And that Brittany didn't know how to help her. I think when you have families that are extremely sick and there's all sorts of things going on, that these things are more prone to happen. I don't know anything about the Carter family. I can't even speculate, but I know with Britney Spears that her mother was the ultimate stage mothers that wanted it to happen for her daughters. And she didn't care how it had to happen. She wanted them all to be huge stars. Now, that's one thing that's really tragic about the Aaron Carters and Britney Spears of this world is sometimes their parents exploit them for money, and the money is gone. And once that's gone, it's just gone. It's better if the child is working in a state that has Jackie Coogan laws because they'll force the parent to put a certain amount of the child's earnings aside for them for when they get older. That was one good thing that TLC did with the Honey Boo Boo families. They forced Mama June, to put the money aside in Coogan accounts. So many child stars are abused and taken advantage of. Very few make it big after childhood. That's exactly right. And um, the TLC thing bothers me because while they were looking after Honey Boo Boo's kids, they did nothing for the Duggar kids. And the kids were used on the show. They put them down as volunteers so they wouldn't have to put any of the money aside in the Coogan account for the kids. And those kids got nothing, 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 nothing. It's all wrong when the parents start spending all the kids' monies like that. Oh, it's just depressing thinking about how many of these poor kids end up completely broke as a result. And they should have been forced from day one to put a certain percentage of the money coming in aside for the kids for when they grow up and let the kids decide from there. I know that could have helped Jill and Derek with the horrible hospital bill they had that they complained about with baby number 2. Come on, Derek, write that book. Write that book. We're all waiting for the tell-all book. And I don't think that any of the Duggar siblings will do it. I just have a feeling they're too cowed by daddy, who's supporting them all, to ever do that. It's a shame. A crying shame that all this has occurred. And then you have your T channels that are making hay with this. They're going to be breathlessly reporting every single blink or bump in the road on this whole thing. Gabor Marie just wrote a book called The Myth of Normal in a Toxic Society. Addiction is very complicated, and parts of society make it worse. I know that. I know that society has a vested interest in keeping you ill, and it's really hard to recover when you're in that kind of sick society that pushes medication for everyone. Jim Bob Duggar supporting them all with money that should have been theirs. Exactly. He is. He's supporting them all. And now that the tap has been turned off, I don't get the impression that Jim Bob is the kind of guy to invest. I have a feeling he didn't put much or any of that money aside for the future, aside from buying a few pieces of property and things like that. You know, that's the problem with fundamentalism. With quiverful evangelicalism is nobody knows how to handle money, and nobody illustrates that better than Lori Alexander, who I'm going to talk about her book here maybe next week. She's got a chapter on finances, how you should handle your finances in a quiverful family. And she said, number one, buy used and save the difference. And number two, never use your credit cards. And I looked at that, I thought, that is the slimmest advice of all time. So I actually wrote a column for NLQ where I broke down what you need to know for family finances that I'm going to go over again sometime soon, because that is one of those things. Hey, Shelley, that's one of those things that people miss when they're doing these types of things where they're looking at what can be helped and what can't. Um, and let's face it, the poor Duggar kids, they were raised like veal in a box. Just like Aaron was, just like every other child star in this world was raised without a decent education, without the kind of knowledge base that could benefit you for the rest of your life. It's really tragic in my eyes that parents do that, because they're performing, they're really putting their kids at risk. And hold on to your wigs, kids, but I think we're about to go into a very bad financial time. I went to Costco Price Mart here on Thursday, the first day that my COVID restriction was lifted, and prices had jumped. I've been looking at property prices, and where my daughter lives, the prices have started to tank, and she's right up against DC. So you have the prices going up and the cost of property going down, and the interest rate for home loans is going up. It's not a positive outlook. And I think what's going on is we're about to go into another recession. I just don't see any way around it. Our inflation rates are starting to climb again. I also think that Aaron had an internet addiction as well. I'm sure he did, Shelley, because he had so much adulation as a preteen, and he thought that would be there forever, and sadly dried up. So whatever attention that he could garner online was a positive for him. And I think that he discovered that was a way to get money to buy drugs too. It's tragic. And I've seen some people who are really going after his fans hard for having provided the money for him to buy drugs. Interest rates for home loans have gone up to 7.3%. Yes, they have. And the thing that was the most shocking to me was how much my prescriptions had gone up in 1 month. I was really horrified by that. And a lot of them don't even come from the US. No, I'm sorry, I have a cat here that thinks they are going to go through the trash can. And I'm not letting that happen, as you can well hear. I just pushed her away and told her, no, we're not doing the trash can thing, because she'll go through it. I swear, cats are like kids. So if we can come up with a plan on handling our money through a recession, I think that's the way to go. I think we're all going to have to stop and think about this. I know I will have to. We just bought a ton of stuff here. We bought a granite topped island in the kitchen. We bought a brand new car. We had a bunch of furniture made. We bought furniture. We bought a widescreen TV. So there's all this. So we're trying to help the economy here, but it's not trickling down to the US much. And anything from the US is like gotten crazy expensive all of a sudden. Wow, I had no idea. I refied a couple of years ago for 3%. Shelley, that's a good rate to refi for. We don't have a loan here. We don't have a mortgage. We paid for this place outright cash when we bought it. I think that I'm going to have to do some research and some studying on all of this, because this crash that's coming, I think it's going to be worse than 2009 was. And I don't think there's going to be an easy way to come out. A lot of the mortgage broker companies have already started laying people off, along with some of the real estate agents and the what do you call that? The title insurance companies. They've started to, yeah. I want to move so bad, but it's so cheap where I live now. I don't want to get in a pickle. Shelley, I understand that. We're looking at maybe a condo in Baltimore, but I've got my eyeballs peeled. I only want to live in one particular building. And when the prices come down there to where I want them, we'll buy. Hey, Nikki. Yeah, so we're just talking a little bit about all these crazy stories going on right now, including dealing with a family member with addiction, with severe addictions. So there's that. And if nothing else, I hope that the death of Aaron engenders more people to have these conversations. Because I think as a country, we're going to have to come up with a way better to deal with and help people with addictions. Nikki, I have my voice. I sound okay now compared to how I did sound. So I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering from COVID. Yeah, I think we're going to have to figure out ways around that stuff. I think we're also going to have to define what it is we want the police to do. Do we want them policing the streets and investigating crime, or do we want them to be social workers, drug counselors, or what? And I think we're going to have to take those extra roles away from the police and come up with a better way to deal with the average addicted person out there walking around. Because what we've done so far doesn't work. I mean, even Aaron, he was involved in DUI 3 days before he died. I thought that was kind of strange. And when you're that far into your addiction, as he obviously was, there's not a whole lot that you can do if you're a family member. Just love them from a distance. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. I'm losing my voice. This country is in a mess right now. It's getting really scary. Shelley, I agree. Teaching coping skills to kids, such as mediation, tapping nature to handle stress. Barbara, that's a good idea too. Something has to change that's fundamentally wrong in our society that's driving a lot of these things. And it makes me fear for my kids and their kids. Okay, you guys, I may see you tomorrow. I may not. It depends upon if I can talk and if I can think. And what the weather's doing. This morning I couldn't have done it because my electric kept cutting on and off, on and off, on and off. And it was difficult. iPads are raising kids. That shouldn't happen at all. It's one thing to let your kid have their iPad for a little while each day or to play on the computer for a little while each day. It's a whole different ballgame when they're being babysat by the iPad or the TV. It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening. Get a lot of rest. Get good rest. And I'll see you sometime next week. Love you.